Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the Acts of the Apostles. Today we are in Acts chapter 16. Paul is on his second missionary journey. He has revisited the churches of the first journey in Galatia and now is ready to press further to the west. Let's begin to read at verse 6 of chapter 16. Now Paul and his companions. Now his companions, you will remember, are Silas and Timothy. Silas had become his new partner on this journey, and Timothy, they had joined the company in Galatia. So Paul, Silas, and Timothy traveled throughout the region of Phrygia and Galatia, having been kept by the Holy Spirit from preaching the word in the province of Asia. Now when they came to the border of Mysia, they tried to enter Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus would not allow them to. So they passed by Mysia, and they went down to Troas. During the night, Paul had a vision of a man of Macedonia standing and begging him, "Come over to Macedonia, help us." So after Paul had seen the vision, we got ready at once to leave for Macedonia, concluding that God had called us to preach the gospel to them. I have several geographical references here to Paul's travels on this second journey, but they give us a wonderful message of what Paul was attempting to do and how he listened to where the Spirit of God led him. Now it says after they left Galatia, they wanted to go and preach in Asia. Now if you look at a map, the province of Asia, or of Asia Minor at this time, would put them on a directly westward journey. They'd be following the main road directly west. If they had stayed on that road, they would come to the city of Ephesus. So it seems that Paul had in mind to travel to Ephesus. He wanted to plant the gospel there. But the Spirit of Jesus somehow told him this is not the time. Now later, he would come to Ephesus. That would be on the third journey. But right now the Spirit said, no, now is not the time. Then it says they turned to the north and tried to enter Bithynia. That's a province directly to the north. It's a rich area, populated area, a good place to plant the gospel. So Paul says, if now is not the time to go to Ephesus, I'll go to Bithynia. But again, the Spirit of Jesus prevented them and said, now is not the time. Now, we don't quite know how the Spirit communicated this. Was this an impression on Paul's spirit? Was it perhaps a prophetic word through someone in the church? We don't know. But somehow the Spirit of Jesus communicated to Paul, now is not the time. So first he tried to go directly west. The Spirit said no. Then he tried to go north. The Spirit said no. So instead, Paul took a northwesterly direction between the provinces of Asia Minor and Bithynia. And he ended up coming to the city of Troas. Now, Troas is a great port city in the northwest corner of Asia Minor, or what is today Turkey. It's a great port city because it sits on the Aegean Sea. A lot of trade goes through it, coming from east to west, that is coming from Asia Minor going back toward Greece, or coming the other way from Greece toward Asia Minor. Very, very busy city. While he's in Troas, he has a vision. Comes to him, it seems, during the night in the form of a dream. And in this dream vision, he sees a man of Macedonia. Now, Macedonia is the province across the Aegean Sea in northern Greece. So in his vision, Paul sees a man of Macedonia, and that man says, "Come over here, help us. Come over to Macedonia, help us." And so Paul understands that to be the direction of the Lord. He is to go to Macedonia. And so he makes plans at once to set sail from Troas, to sail across the Aegean Sea and land in the province of Macedonia, or northern Greece. Now what you see here is an interesting combination of how Paul did his missionary work. It involves strategic planning. That is, Paul plans what he thinks is the best way to proceed with his work. But he also is always listening to the nudges, the impressions, the guidance of the Holy Spirit. We ought to do that as well. We ought to plan our work for the Lord well, but always listen carefully and prayerfully to those impressions, those nudges, those guiding points the Holy Spirit gives us. Paul planned to go west to Ephesus. The Spirit said, not yet. Paul decided, I'll go north to Bithynia. The Spirit said, not yet. So Paul traveled to Troas, waiting on the Lord's guidance. And then in a vision, the Lord said, go to Macedonia. Let's you and I live our life this way. Plan as carefully as we can to do God's work in the best way we can, but always listening in prayers to the nudges and the direction of the Spirit. God always communicates His will to us. And so Paul ends up in Macedonia, ready for the next great expansion of the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, there's one other thing I want you to notice about this passage before we close for today. We began with Paul and his companions, and that's Paul, Silas, and Timothy. They end up in Troas. Now notice what it says when they left Troas. Paul had the vision, and in verse 10 it says, after Paul had the vision, we got ready at once to leave for Macedonia. Always before, the pronoun has been what Paul and his companions did, what they did, what he did. Now suddenly it's what we did. We left at once. This indicates to us that Luke has joined the missionary company. Luke, we know, is the author of the book of Acts. And whenever he uses the we, that means he is now part of the journey. So now they have 4 in their company: Paul, Silas, Timothy, and now Luke. We got ready at once and we left for Macedonia, for that is where God had called us to preach the gospel. In our next session, we'll look at what the 4 of them do when they reach Macedonia and the great ministry that unfolds for them there. But that'll be next time. You have a great day today, and I'll see you next time in our 5-minute Bible study in the Acts of the Apostles.